The thrilling story begins by showing a very famous place in Japan, which was renowned because of the samurais. Whoever became a samurai there would protect the local people. But the real problem began when the alien civilization slowly started arriving there. As the number of aliens grew, things began to change according to their will. In fact, the alien civilization even wanted to destroy humanity entirely. But the team of samurais stood against them and fought back. It is said that many years ago, aliens had arrived on Earth in a similar way, and the samurais of that time had bravely confronted them as well. However, obviously, the aliens greatly outnumbered the samurais, and in that massive war, more than half of the samurais were killed. Because of this, a compromise was made between the aliens and the humans. They would live together, but the dominance would belong to the aliens. The remaining samurais were forbidden from attacking the aliens. Due to all this, humanity began to slowly advance as well. Now the story shifts to the present, where all the remaining samurais have gone their separate ways. We're shown a samurai named Shin who now works as a cashier in a shop. Despite undergoing intense training, Shin had to move on with a normal life due to the fall of the samurai way. Shin wasn't really good at his job, and the shop owner often scolded him. One day, Shin was carrying some drinks to a nearby table that had been ordered by some aliens whose heads looked like animals. One of them intentionally injured Shin's leg, causing him to fall and spill the drink on another alien. This angered both aliens greatly, and they were about to kill Shin. Poor Shin lived peacefully and hated violence. Just as the aliens were about to attack him, a man named Jin appeared at the scene. Jin too was a samurai and had been quietly passing by. Seeing his fellow samurai being beaten up, he couldn't just sit and watch. So Jin used his strength and pushed the alien back. The aliens quickly realized Jin was a samurai and reminded him of the agreement, that samurais are not allowed to attack aliens. Jin responded, saying that this wasn't a weapon, just a piece of wood, which was enough for all of them. Then, telling Shin to take care of himself, Jin walked away. A little while later, we are shown an apartment where Shin, Jin, and a girl named Kagura lived. All three of them belonged to samurai families, living together and working different small jobs. At this time, life had become extremely difficult for samurais, as they had no real jobs left. They were forced to take on whatever small work they could find. Now all three, Shin, Jin, and Kagura, were sitting at home watching a TV show, which was talking about a rare beetle that had immense value in the market. Catching and selling it could earn a lot of money. So, they decided to go into the nearby forest to search for this beetle. If they managed to find it, they wouldn't need to work much anymore. Excited, the three of them grabbed their nets and started walking. Not far into the forest, they saw a samurai named Kondo, who used to be the leader of their group. For some strange reason, Kondo had covered his entire body in honey and stood in a weird pose. When they asked him why, he told them that he was also looking for the rare beetle and had applied honey to his body to attract it. It was his personal technique. Shin, Jin, and Kagura realized the competition was increasing, so they ignored Kondo and continued ahead. A little further in, they saw a strange liquid spread on tree branches. A boy standing nearby was applying it, as he too was trying to attract the beetle. Now they didn't know how much the competition would grow, so the trio started searching for the beetle more urgently. After a long time of searching, they finally spotted a huge beetle on top of a tree. None of them had expected to find such a big beetle. They wanted to catch it, so Kagura immediately kicked the tree branch. She hit it so hard that the giant beetle fell to the ground. The three of them quickly rushed to capture it, but soon realized it wasn't a real beetle at all. It was actually another samurai using a beetle disguise technique to lure the actual beetle. It was all an illusion. As soon as people nearby heard about the large beetle, they came running to the scene. Even Kondo showed up, still covered in honey. This made it clear just how valuable the beetle must be. Now that everyone had gathered, Shin and Jin told them all to leave. But suddenly, a golden beetle flew right through the crowd. The moment Shin, Jin, and Kagura saw it, they immediately started chasing after it. They were determined to catch it and sell it in the market at any cost. Others who were with Kondo also joined in the chase for the golden beetle. The area turned into a frenzy as everyone rushed toward the main market. At the market, a woman from the group called Tem was already present. She was Kondo's older sister, but unlike others, she wasn't calm at all. She was extremely aggressive. When Kondo got close to her, she even threw him far away. Shin and Jin were still hot on the beetle's trail. Amidst the chaos, a samurai named Cotto appeared in the market. Cotto was accompanied by his alien friend Elizabeth, a large bird who couldn't speak. Cotto always stayed with her and took care of her. Now Cotto knew Jin and Shin, they were his old friends. But when he saw many people chasing after Jin and Shin, he thought they might be coming to kill him. So after Jin and Shin moved ahead, Cotto stepped in front of the crowd and started taking them down one by one. Cotto had excellent fighting abilities, he had trained extensively for this. Now, one after another, he began eliminating everyone. Even though those people were skilled fighters and came to battle him, Cotto managed to defeat them all using just a stick. Within a short time, Cotto displayed his speed and defeated them all. Meanwhile, Shin, Jean, and Kagura were still chasing the golden beetle, which just wouldn't stop moving. Jean finally stopped on a bridge, right in front of the beetle, thinking he'd be able to catch it. But suddenly, a large frog-like alien emerged from the water and snapped the golden beetle into its mouth. The alien frog then dove back into the water with it. Everyone stood frozen, watching it all happen, and it seemed like the golden beetle was gone for good. They all felt disappointed, realizing they had just missed a great opportunity. Sadly, they would now have to return to their jobs and continue doing hard labor. Now it's night. Cotto is seen walking home across a bridge when a man suddenly appears behind him. His name is Nizu, and he says he's been searching for a samurai for a long time. His sword needs a samurai's blood. When Cotto turned around and saw the sword in Nizu's hand, he sensed something was off. Cotto only had a wooden sword, but he understood that an attack was coming. In the next moment, Nizu struck him with his sharp sword. And just like that, Cotto, such a skilled samurai, was killed with a single blow. The next day, everything appeared normal, but Cotto's alien pet, Elizabeth, realized her master had died. Terrified, she rushed straight to Shin and Jin's house. Elizabeth looked extremely distressed, and of course, she couldn't speak, so she couldn't properly explain what had happened. Shin, Jin, and Kagura were all there. Elizabeth tried to convey that someone had killed Cotto, but they couldn't fully understand what she meant. Shin gave her some food, which made her emotional, because it was the same food her master Cotto always used to give her. Jin, feeling bored, went out to his shop. Shin and Kagura stayed with Elizabeth, trying to understand her better. A little while later, a man named Tetsuya was introduced. He came to meet Jin with his sister. Tetsuya clearly told Jin that their grandfather once possessed a very ancient sword. Under moonlight, it would emit a green glow. This sword wasn't ordinary, it held immense energy within. Whoever was killed by that sword would have their soul absorbed into it. Now, Tetsuya nervously explained that the sword was recently stolen. No one knows who stole it, or how it will be used. That's why Tetsuya came to Jin. He wanted him to track down the man who stole their ancestral sword and bring it back by any means necessary. In return, Tetsuya promised to pay Jin some money. Tetsuya and his sister also warned Jin to be cautious, because if the sword was used by someone with good intentions, it could lead to great advancements. But if it fell into the wrong hands, it could bring total destruction. Jin accepted the offer and immediately set out to begin his investigation. Meanwhile, Elizabeth took Shin and Kagura to the same bridge where her master Cotto had been killed. Using a signboard, she tried to explain that Cotto had died and had been killed by a swordsman. She even handed over her master's bag, which had bloodstains on it. At that moment, Shin understood what she was trying to say and became extremely panicked. Cotto had been his best friend. Kagura was also deeply shocked after hearing this. She then used the bag to ask her alien pet, a large cat, to sniff it and try to track down the killer. But unfortunately, the scent had already faded. Now Shin, frustrated and worried, began asking Elizabeth where Cotto was. Though Elizabeth was a bird, she was an alien, and when she sensed danger, she activated a beam from within herself and warned Shin to back off. Poor Shin got scared and stepped away. Both of them now realized just how devastated they were after Koto's death. Later that night, we see Jin again. While on his way, he ran into his ally Okada. Okada gave Jin some shocking news. There was a man in the city who had been using a sword to kill several people. The strange thing was that the bodies of the victims, most of whom were sick, had never been found. It was as if the sword had made them disappear. Jin started to believe that this might be the same sword Tetsuya had mentioned. The scene shifts to Shin and Elizabeth walking together, talking as they go. But little did they know that the dangerous samurai Nizu had now appeared nearby. Nizu wanted to kill all samurais and extract their souls. Now his focus turned to Shin. He drew his sword and moved in to attack. Just as Nizu went to strike Shin, Elizabeth jumped in to protect him and attacked Nizu. But the sword's power was so immense that it killed Elizabeth instantly. As Nizu prepared to strike Shin again, Jin suddenly arrived. He attacked Nizu's hand, causing him to drop the sword. Nizu, however, became even more excited. Now he had two samurais in front of him. He planned to kill them both and absorb their souls together. Immediately, Nizu picked up his sword, which was glowing pink. Jin understood in just one blow that Nizu was more powerful than him. Nizu attacked with such speed that Jin didn't even have time to react. He threw him straight down from the bridge. But even then, Jin didn't give up. He used every bit of strength left in him to fight back against Nizu. However, obviously, Nizu had the upper hand because of the sword. He slashed Jin in the stomach, putting Jin's life in serious danger. Suddenly, Shin arrived at the scene and slashed Nizu's hand with his sharp sword, severing one of Nizu's hands. Along with Shin, many other samurais had arrived to help, including Okita. Nizu realized he couldn't take on so many samurais in his current condition, so he picked up his sword and fled. Shin and Okita immediately lifted Jin, who was in critical condition, and rushed to take him to a hospital, fearing he might die. But now, they were determined to catch Nizu at any cost, because he was targeting the samurai community. Next, we are shown Kondo in the city, training in combat. One of his old comrades arrived to deliver some important information. He told Kondo that a huge threat was looming everywhere. Nizu, the dangerous villain and rogue samurai, was assembling the most deadly team. This team would possess alien technology and many kinds of powers. Their only goal was to wipe out all samurais and establish their own rule. They even made a pact with the aliens. The man also told Kondo about the unbeatable sword, a sword no one had ever defeated, the same sword now in Nizu's possession. This clearly showed how powerful Nizu had become. Now we are shown Kagura walking through the city with her alien pet cat. Suddenly, she came near a boat from which a strange light was visible. Curious, she first sent her alien cat to check it out. Soon after, she followed. Kagura sensed something wrong. There was a strange energy in the air, and it felt very dark. Ahead, a man was playing some kind of instrument. Kagura quickly approached him and pointed her umbrella like a weapon, asking, "Who are you, and what are you doing here in such a strange way?" When the man turned around, his eyes were pink. Clearly, he had some extremely dangerous powers. Suddenly, someone from behind Kagura opened fire. It was a woman named Mitaka, a member of Nizu's team. Despite the constant gunfire, Kagura managed to dodge the attacks and counterattacked Mitaka from the other side. A fierce fight broke out between the two. Eventually, Kagura landed a strong punch and sent Mitaka flying. But now, several soldiers from Mitaka's team had arrived, and Kagura had to fight them too. That's when Kagura revealed her true powers as a samurai. Using only her umbrella, she took down the soldiers. Just when she was about to do more, Mitaka launched a surprise attack from behind. Kagura was hit by multiple bullets, which made her extremely weak. She told her alien cat to go and bring Jin to help her. Sadly, Mitaka and her team had already captured Kagura. We even heard a gunshot, which implied that they had killed her too. Next, we see Jin, who was in very bad condition and was told to rest. But he had already recovered a bit. As Jin slowly regained consciousness, he saw the same woman named Tae in front of him. Tae told Jin that he needed to rest, and that she would take care of him until he fully recovered. But Jin couldn't rest peacefully. He knew his allies might be in trouble. Tae, who also had powers, forcefully put Jin to sleep and insisted he rest. Then we are shown Kagura's cat, who reaches Shin the next day. Shin understood that something had happened to Kagura, so he followed the cat. The cat led him to the same ship where Kagura had been imprisoned. Inside the ship, we see Nizu, his hand still missing from the last battle. Mitaka, a member of his team, came to speak with him. She said they wouldn't find peace until they killed every last samurai. But now she began questioning Nizu's strength, saying that since he had lost one hand, he had become weaker. This made Nizu furious. He revealed a glimpse of his true power by extending sharp tentacles from his body. Using one of those tentacles, he grabbed Mitaka and told her he didn't need anyone. He almost killed her using the tentacles, but since she was still part of his team, he let her go. Nizu simply said that even though he had lost a hand, he still had enough power to wipe out the samurais with ease. Then, we see Kagura inside the ship. She was still alive. But her behavior seemed strange. She was eating with others in a weird way and looked far stronger than before. It appeared that some changes had been made to her body. Now, we see Jin again. His wounds had mostly healed. At that moment, Tatsuko arrived, the same person who had asked Jin to recover the stolen sword. Jin invited Tatsuko inside and began questioning her. He asked clearly, aside from the sword, "What else didn't you tell me?" Tatsuko finally revealed the truth, that the sword doesn't just extract souls, it completely uses the host's body to analyze the enemy's patterns. It works like a parasite. If someone gets infected by this sword, survival becomes nearly impossible. Jin was now furious with Tatsuko for hiding such a dangerous secret. Because Tatsuko hadn't revealed all this earlier, Jin was furious. Many of his comrades had died due to these consequences, and now he might not be willing to help her. Tatsuko, disappointed and heartbroken, left. Jin had refused to help her. However, Jin knew that until he defeated Nizu and his team, the samurai community would remain under threat. So, despite being injured, he decided to rejoin his comrades. He told Tay to rest and quietly snuck out. Jean went directly to an old man who was known for crafting strange weapons. Jean told him that he needed a weapon strong enough to defeat an enemy twice as powerful as him. After his previous fight with Nizu, Jean had realized he needed something far more powerful, especially since he was already weakened. The old man understood Jin's need, so he offered him a fruit that would turn his body rubber-like. But Jean wasn't interested in such things. He wanted a sword that already had internal energy. The two argued for a while, but ultimately Jean left. Back on the ship, Kagura was shown tied up. She was about to be sacrificed. Mitaka had a gun pointed at her, hoping Kagura would call out to her samurai friends so they could ambush and kill them. But just before the attack, Shin arrived like a hero. However, when Mitaka pointed her gun at him, he froze in fear. Mitaka assumed Shin had come alone, but suddenly, their ship was attacked. Kondo and his entire samurai team had arrived and were jumping onto the enemy ship from their own, ready to eliminate the threat quickly. Shin used the chaos to rush to Kagura and free her. The two immediately tried to escape, as the ship was now on the verge of destruction. Jean, meanwhile, had learned his teammates needed him. As he was heading out, Tatsuko appeared and handed him a royal sword. She told him that this sword was connected to the pink sword Nizu carried. Only a true warrior with innate qualities could wield it, and she recognized those abilities in Jean. Jean accepted the sword and set off to fight Nizu. Just then, the old man who made gadgets also joined him, giving Jean a flying device that could take him anywhere. Jean took it and flew off to battle. Next, we see Okita with a fellow samurai, standing right in front of Nizu, challenging him. They knew Nizu was powerful, but they still fired bullets at him. Nizu effortlessly deflected them with his sword. This battle was going to be intense, with the odds heavily stacked against the samurais. Whether they could defeat Nizu or not remains to be seen. To find out what happens next, stay tuned for the next part. Our story ends here.